What do we mean when we talk about the energy system? It includes all the companies and people who work to provide us with energy, the infrastructure they use, and the equipment that we use when we consume energy. It also includes the choices we make, because two people making the same journey in identical cars might use very different amounts of fuel depending on how they drive. We should take account of the pollution created and the impacts that it can have on people and the environment. But does anybody actually want energy? I don't think anybody would buy a litre of diesel for its own sake. What we want is not energy as such, but energy services. My transport comes from a car and its fuel, my light from electricity and a light bulb, or perhaps a light-emitting diode. And as people become better off, we tend to want more energy services. Instead of a bicycle, a motorbike, and then a car. We might buy air conditioning, or even just electric lighting. Just under 3/10 of the world's energy consumption is used in transport, vehicles, ships and aircraft. Another 3/10 is used in industry. A lot of industrial processes work best at high temperatures, or only work at high temperatures, and so a lot of heat is needed. But there's also a big demand for cooling things, and a lot of electricity. A quarter of industrial energy consumption is in the form of electricity to drive electric motors and other processes. Unfortunately, it's a lot easier to get statistics on who is using energy than what they are using it for, so I can't give you the breakdown of so much energy used by industry for heating, so much for cooling, and so on. Similarly, around 2/10 of the world's energy is used by households, but I can't break that down into heating, cooling, lighting, fridges and other appliances. About 1/10 of the world's energy is used by non-industrial businesses in commerce and agriculture, and about 1/10 of the world's energy is actually for non-energy use, mostly going into the petrochemical sector to make plastics and other products. But where do we get our energy from? Primary energy refers to energy in the first usable form we have it. It includes the fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, called that because they're derived from the remains of plants and animals that have been underground for millions of years, nuclear energy, and various forms of renewables. Crude oil is the single most important form of energy, making up about 3/10 of the world's energy supplies. Coal, the highest carbon of the fossil fuels, makes up just under 3/10, while natural gas, the lowest carbon fossil fuel, makes up about 2/10. About 1/10 of the world's energy comes from burning waste and biomass. I'm including biomass burned by people mostly in low-income countries who have got no access to modern energy. About 5% comes from nuclear power and about 3% from hydro. And finally, we have the modern renewables, biofuels used for transport and other forms of renewable electricity generation, making up about 2%. Wind power and solar power have been growing very fast in recent years, but in 2015 they still only made up about 1% of the world's energy. If you have a solar panel on your roof, you're getting energy in a form that you can use, electricity, where you want it, but that's unusual. You can't put crude oil in your car, you need a refinery to turn it into gasoline or diesel. Natural gas has to be separated from the oil or the other hydrocarbon liquids that it is often found with. And electricity is mostly generated in power stations, many of which use more energy as heat than they send out in the form of electricity. And it takes energy to move energy around the world. All in all, total final energy consumption is only about 70% of the primary energy that we start with. That in turn is an underestimate if we think in terms of the useful energy services. Internal combustion engines waste far more power as heat than they transfer to the vehicle's wheels. Traditional light bulbs produced far more heat than light. And so improving the efficiency with which we convert energy to energy services is a very important part of the transition to a low carbon energy system.